Okay, this is step 6 of your rotoscope animation, and this is the step where you're going to take the most time. The majority of your work is going to be spent now just animating each individual photo by drawing on the transparent layer. So by this point, you have recorded a video, you have converted it into a GIF file. That video should have been less than 10 seconds long. You've opened the GIF file in Photopea, and you have selected 10 still frames, 10 random frames that you wanted to save to animate on, and then you've added a transparent layer in between every photo. So you should have a transparent layer followed by a photo, a transparent layer, then a photo. Okay, now the most important part. When you draw, never draw on your photo layer. Always make sure you select the transparent layer, because if you do not draw on the transparent layer and you finish your work, your animation's not going to work and you will have done all that hard work for nothing. So always check to make sure when you're drawing, you're highlighting the transparent layer only. All right, so I would recommend just starting by going photo by photo, frame by frame. And this is the part where you're going to use your brush tool. You're going to use all the tools you use to create your sketch. And remember, you don't have to get as detailed as your sketch, but you can get pretty detailed, because the more detailed you are, the better your animation will end up looking. So I would recommend starting at the top and working your way down. So I'm going to start at this top transparent layer, and I'm going to come over to my brush tool right here. And remember, I can change the color of my brush tool down in this color picker right here. Pick on the color I want. That's an ugly color, maybe something like that. Or remember, under the crop tool right here, this crop tool, the drop-down menu, there's the eyedropper. So say like I want to eyedropper, I'm going to do the coffee pot. If I want to draw that, I just click on the coffee pot and my eyedropper will, my color palette will turn that color. That's kind of like more of a grayer color. I might just go ahead and pick white myself, okay? So I picked white. Now I'm gonna go back to my brush, and I'm gonna come up here to change the size of my brush and the hardness or softness. So because I'm gonna do some detailed work, I want a harder brush, so I might choose this 5 right here. Here's your hardness slider. So for outlines, you want the hardness to be all the way at 100. To fill in larger areas, you can do like a softer brush, okay? And then you can change the size here. I think maybe like 2 or 1 point font is best for outlines. Okay, click off of that. And then now I'm probably gonna zoom in as well. So I'm gonna grab my zoom tool, and I'm just gonna click down on my photo till I zoom into that coffee pot. Go back to my brush, and now I can just start drawing around just like you did for your sketch, and put on some headphones, listen to some great music. You're going to be doing this 10 times on every photo, okay? Again, get as detailed or not detailed as you want. The more detailed you are, the better your animation and the cooler it would look. You guys have a good amount of time to work on these in class, so don't speed through it. All right, so imagine I did my outline of my coffee pot. Now my brush is really small. If I want to make it bigger, remember, you can look at your keyboard. There's the letter P. Right next to the letter P, there's 2 little brackets. One bracket makes your brush size bigger, one makes it smaller. That's a bigger brush. That looks better. So I'm going to just get in there, fill in with the rest of the white. Okay. I'm going to go. Imagine that you're taking your time and you're going to do the entire slide. And maybe you just want to start with outlines. Maybe you just go to every frame and do outlines. There's my first part of it that I've finished. Again, imagine that I've drawn over the entire slide. And once you do that, let me zoom back out by clicking the minus button. You can then, once you're finished with drawing on this layer, you can then uncheck this eyeball. Okay, so see how when I turn off the eyeball, that makes that layer invisible. I want to make that layer invisible, and then I want to make the photo underneath it invisible. So now I'm on my next layer. So what I'm looking at is my next photo, right? So I'm looking at photo 178 right now because the eyeball is checked. If I check on this eyeball right here, I'm looking at the wrong frame, because that would mean I'm looking at photo 290. I want to, as I go down and finish, just turn off the visibility of the slides above it, because otherwise you can't see. So now I'm onto my next outline. I'm going to click on that transparent layer, and I'm going to repeat that same process. So you're getting your brush tool. And again, this is for the demo, so I'm not filling in the entire slide, or that would be a long time to look. But you're just outlining. You are filling in with color. You are completing every single frame here. You're drawing on the transparent layer that's right above that frame. Okay. Pay attention to subtle changes, in movement. That's what's going to make your animation look pretty cool. So imagine this. So right now, if I were to check my progress, what I could do is actually turn off all the eyeballs below, on all the frames below, so you don't see anything underneath except for what you're looking at. And that's going to help you. This is kind of what will help guide you a little bit more. So I would, recommend turning off all the visibility on all the layers that you're not working on. Okay, so now if you can see the one transparent layer. That's the layer that I just finished. Imagine that I got more detailed, okay? Your first layer, that was my first one up here. If I click on it, notice that you can see just the coffee cup, because that's what I did for that layer right there. So if you wanted to go back and fill in more detail, you could just check on the eyeball of the photo below it, select that layer, and maybe now I also want to go ahead and outline myself on this first top layer as well. So go ahead. You guys have all the tools. You know how to use your magic wand. You know how to use the color picker, the eyedropper. You know how to change the size of your brush, all sorts of things to make this really cool. And you also know how to cut out the background and add a color background if you don't want if you don't want this to be without just a plain background. So there would be, if I uncheck the photo, that's my first frame. Then that's my second frame. Notice how it's slightly shifted. You're going to start to notice that as you work down through all your frames. Okay. So this is going to take you a couple class periods. So just take your time, go step by step, frame by frame. And as you finish, just turn on the eyeball of the frames that you're working with. So that's the next layer. And then the next layer would be below that. Okay. Every once in a while, like every 10 minutes, when you finish something and you're proud of it, be sure to say save. If it's not letting you do that, say save as PSD and then drag that file. Most important, so you do not lose your work, click show in folder. Drag that file that just downloaded into your MMA folder. That way you have the latest versions of your work. So now I've actually saved it 3 times. So now I'm at right here, version 012. Okay. And then that way, next time you open up your project, it's always going to be saved right there in your folder. Okie doke. That is it. Let me stop this video. Bye. And we will see you. Ask me questions if you have them in class.